Protests are taking place over Japan's planned release of treated radioactive water from the wrecked Fukushima nuclear plant. The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, is in Seoul to try and calm fears after he endorsed the plan. The plant was severely damaged in 2011 after being struck by a tsunami. And some scientists and activists, they've been opposed to the release of water due to concerns on the impact on the ocean bed and marine life. Seoul has said it respects the UN body's conclusion that the discharge of wastewater from the Fukushima plant will likely be safe. Well, we are going to keep across those pictures as they come to us from those protests there. But let's go to our Asia-Pacific editor, Michael Bristow, for more.
There's been a difference between the South Korean government on one hand and their scientists who say that the plan by Japan to release water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant is safe. And on the other hand, there's the public here, the general public in South Korea. 4 out of 5 people, an opinion poll suggests, are opposed to the release of water. Rafael Grossi is here in the capital of South Korea, Seoul, to try and convince those people that it is actually safe to release this water. He's trying to convince people like the opposition politician behind me. She's been sitting outside the Japanese embassy where I am at the moment for the last 13 days. She's on hunger strike. She's drunk water, but she hasn't eaten for 13 days. She said she'll continue doing that until the Japanese abandon their plan to not to release this contaminated water. So her protests and the other protests around the capital and indeed around South Korea, particularly in cities where there's a big fishing community, those protesters are trying to persuade Japan not to release the water.
Michael Bristow there from the BBC World Service. Let's get more on this with Dr. Peter Martin from the University of Bristol. He is an expert in nuclear energy, threat reduction and reactor accidents. Good to have your expertise on the BBC, sir. First of all, I want you to help me understand the science of this. What was being done with the water prior to it being released?
So the Fukushima site, since the accident, has been sending a lot of its kind of wastewater, all of its wastewater, through some very kind of complex treatment processes. So we call them the ALPS, the kind of advanced liquid processing system, and that removes kind of most, if not all, of the kind of radioactive contamination that's in the water. However, it can't remove everything. So things like tritium and carbon-14 that kind of is abundant in this wastewater still remains.
As I understand it, linked to what you're saying, as I understand it, it's quite routine practice for waste like this to be released into the ocean. So why is the Fukushima incident on this occasion so controversial?
Yeah, it is kind of a controversial topic, kind of globally. Kind of nuclear kind of radioactive materials are kind of released from kind of all nuclear facilities. I think the main issue surrounding this kind of release is the fact that it stems from an accident. Prior to kind of the Fukushima accident in 2011, the actual site was kind of releasing tritium kind of routinely as part of its routine discharges. So this actual release that's planned for kind of next month would only release tritium back up to levels that were previously acceptable and permitted prior to the accident.
We've had this endorsement that it's safe for the waters to be discharged into the ocean, but that's doing little to appease ordinary folk who want to ensure that their food is safe, that they can go about their work if they work on the sea in a safe manner. And I mean, I wonder, is there a consensus amongst scientists that this approach is the right approach?
Yeah, I think everything kind of is underpinned by a huge amount of science kind of in this regard. I mean, I've been working on the Fukushima accident for the last 10 years now, and it's not a kind of a complete release. We will not release kind of the kind of over 1 million kind of tons of wastewater straight into the environment. There will be a kind of a routine monitoring as it goes along. So kind of we won't release it all. As stuff is released, we'll take it back, do kind of monitoring out in the Pacific, actually understand kind of, is this an issue? A lot of work today has actually said that the tritium, the kind of the radioactive kind of hydrogen water that will be released, doesn't accumulate in kind of fish or marine organisms like kind of cesium would, but that has been released through the process. So a lot of scientific community actually believes this is the right thing to do, kind of in order to kind of reduce the risk on the Fukushima site and kind of progress the decommissioning.
How then, if you are reassured, does the scientific community, despite the UN endorsement, how does the scientific community reassure ordinary people?
I think we need to kind of ensure that we kind of complete all the monitoring that continues kind of around the area. So, having worked with the Japanese now for over a decade, they're incredibly diligent, kind of very civic-minded, and very, very good scientists. So this will not just be kind of opening the floodgates and releasing all the water. I think as scientific community, we need to ensure that we kind of continue to conduct all the monitoring out in the Pacific that has been going since the accident. Continue all our kind of monitoring of kind of the food products that kind of go into the food chain. So I think the scientists have a crucial role in ensuring that all of the monitoring continues, such that the public kind of are kind of brought along with this and understand kind of that there isn't kind of a significant risk. It isn't kind of the big kind of radioactive monster that it often kind of is seen to be.